But because they had found something they loved, that they had chosen, that they were working really hard at, they developed grit and focus and determination and began to see the trade-off between hard work and results and how to pivot when things aren't working, and that failure is how you learn and grow and it's part of the process. And they learned all these traits and got all these characteristics that when they became entrepreneurs, they had the skill set to succeed.
The right conversation can change everything. This is Mirror Talk, Soulful Conversations.
Welcome to Soulful Conversations, the podcast where we explore the inner stories behind purpose-driven lives. Today, I'm deeply honored to welcome someone whose journey has spanned public service, family life, and now a powerful mission to change how we parent. She spent 20 years in government, in as an FTC Commissioner and the staff director of the President's Council of Economic Advisors. But for the past decade, she has turned her focus to parenting, specifically how to raise confident, passionate, entrepreneurial kids. Her book, Raising an Entrepreneur, draws from 99 families to uncover the hearts behind success. Welcome to the show, Margot. How are you doing?
Good. Here's my book.
Yes, Raising an Entrepreneur, 99 stories from families who did. Wow. I'd like us to just jump into it already. I will skip the wildcard questions and let's just jump into this book. What inspired you to speak with 99 families to write this book?
My older son started an organization 17 years ago of young entrepreneurs. I just came back from one in Detroit 2 days ago, and that was wonderful. And so starting in 2010, I would go to these events and I'd meet all these young entrepreneurs, and I didn't know people like that back then. And I was so curious how they had turned out the way they did. And so I kept asking them, how did you end up taking on so much risk and working so single-mindedly to pursue your dream? And they all told me the same thing. They all said, I had someone who believed in me, someone who told me I could do anything I put my mind to. And I was so struck by this, and I just kept talking about it. And my kids said, you have to write a book. And I said, I can't write a book. And they're like, no, you have to write a book. And I said, I can't write a book. And they said, you have to write a book. I said, okay, I'll write a book.
Yeah.
I actually wrote in the foreword, everyone needs someone to believe in them. And sometimes that's even your kids. But anyhow, so I started interviewing people. I had no idea what I'd find, but I really wanted to get in depth about how they were raised. And I talked to entrepreneurs and I talked to their parents. And I wanted a very diverse group, half men, half women, every race, every religion, every socioeconomic background, small families, big families, born in the US, born overseas, small towns, big cities, going into for-profit, nonprofit, artists, activists, anyone who'd started anything, just completely different kinds of families and backgrounds. And to my amazement, they were all basically raised the same. And it just, that was my reaction. Whoa. And I was so just blown away by this. And I just thought I have to shout it out to the world.
Sometimes you do not need another episode. You need the right moment, the right voice, the right truth for where you are right now. Ask Mirror Talk is a space where you can bring real questions, honest feelings, and the life moments you are navigating. When you ask, you are not met with generic advice or surface-level answers. You are met with insights drawn from real conversations, lived wisdom, and powerful moments from the Mirror Talk podcast. Whether you are questioning, growing, searching, or feeling stuck, this tool helps guide you to reflections, sound bites, and specific episodes that speak directly to what you are experiencing. This is not about fixing you. It is about meeting you. Ask what is on your heart. Mirror Talk will reflect back what may help you see more clearly.
I'm very curious to know. I mean, that's a wonderful job you've done. I'm very curious to know what's the common trend between, within all these families. What's that common thing, the common trait to the families?
So the book is about 10 common traits, the way they were raised. But the number one thing that all of them had in common is they all had a passion outside of school. And in every case, sometimes it took a big gulp, but in every case, their parents supported that passion. And their parents said, we're so proud of you. for your success in that and how hard you're working in that. And every single one of them, except for the artists, most of them don't do anything with their passion today. But because they had found something they loved, that they had chosen, that they were working really hard at, they developed grit and focus and determination and began to see the trade-off between hard work and results and how to pivot when things aren't working, and that failure is how you learn and grow and it's part of the process. And they learned all these traits and got all these characteristics that when they became entrepreneurs, they had the skill set to succeed.
Yeah. That's something that I learned while preparing for this conversation also from your book also. Like I learned that, a lot of kids become very unhappy because they've never been given the space to discover their true passion or to even explore their passion. So, I mean, I'd like to know for a modern family right now, for people out there who are listening, like what does creating space actually look like for a modern family or for a modern family? Yeah.
Well, I just think it's really important for parents to see what gives their children joy. And then encourage them to pursue that. If it's not school, it's not school. And maybe it's sports. I mean, for like 30 or 40% of them, it was sports. And only one of them became a professional athlete for a while. And even he isn't an athlete anymore. He's a serial entrepreneur. But so many parents, they're just, well, I know you really love playing tennis or writing music or drawing or painting or acting or building things or whatever, but stop spending so much time on that and go back to your homework. Yeah. So then they don't really support them in the thing that gives them joy. I mean, I think basically every parent loves their child, and every parent wants their child to be successful and happy, and to be happy. And I think the problem in a lot of families, especially in the US, I mean, maybe everywhere, is that they think to be successful, you have to follow the path that they followed, the path that worked for them 20 years ago. It's a different path. Yeah. It's a different world. That path might work for some kids. There's kids that all they love to do is study their science and they want to be doctors, and that's great. That path will work for them. But there's a lot of other kids that path doesn't work for. And you have to see your child. You have to watch your child. And if your child's not happy, then see what makes your child happy and let them pursue that and tell them you're really delighted that they're working so hard at something that they love, that they chose, because you don't need that old path anymore.
Yeah, you don't need the old path anymore. Yeah. I'm just thinking back. Thanks so much for that. So I was just thinking back to, my African parents. They love us so much. They love their kids so much. And because of that, they want to protect the kids. So, they have these very good intentions, but still their good intentions in some ways are, like you wrote on your website, boomeranging basically, and, resulting in their kids being confined. So I was just thinking in my head right now, as, with all the African traits I have in me right now, how can I hold myself back from wanting to protect my child, in quotes, basically, from wasting time, in quote, also, from exploring things that in my opinion, might not yield to something fruitful in the future.
I mean, I don't think we can protect our kids. And in some ways, parents trying too hard to protect their kids build a cocoon around their kids so that when their kids encounter the real world, they're not used to handling failure and adversity and conflict and challenge. So you can't really protect them in some sense. You have to let them try. You have to let them fail. You have to let them know that they're resilient. You have to let them know that they can succeed when they're trying to do something that they love. And I think parents, we call them snowplow parents or, helicopter parents, these parents who hover around their children and try to, push all the problems out of the way so that their children have an easier time of it. And it's a disaster. Their kids aren't going to succeed in life. Their children have to know how to handle problems themselves, and they have to know that they can fix things themselves, and they have to know that they can bounce back when something hasn't worked out. And they need to have that confidence and that resilience. And parents just need to step back a little bit.
Parents have to step back a little bit. Yeah, it could take a little bit of challenge, but yes, it's necessary support.
Very hard. It's one of the hardest things. I mean, and when I look back at how I did with my children, I mean, I criticize myself because I think I was, maybe too involved sometimes and tried, was in there trying to make things better when I shouldn't have been. But it's hard for parents.
I believe that's it. Yeah. Margot, I would like to learn, from reading your book, I would like to know from your own experience as the author, like in writing Raising an Entrepreneur, what stories surprised you the most? Like, either because of its outcome or its raw authenticity, or honesty also. Like, is there like a particular story from the 99 that really stood out to you?
I mean, there's so it's kind of two questions. What sort of substantively stuck out to me, and then what individual stories stuck out to me. So when I was starting, one of my friends said, I'm just so curious where these children were in the birth order in their family. They said, I'll bet they were all first children or only children. So I thought, yeah, that's what a lot of people say about entrepreneurs. I wonder if that's true. Nope, absolutely not. And they were all, the middle of 3, the bottom of 4, the bottom of 7, the middle of 5, like they were all over the map. And the interesting thing to me was that every one of them said that where they were in the birth order worked out great. So they would say like, I was the middle of 3 kids and my older sibling and my younger sibling were kind of a handful and my parents kind of left me alone. Or I was the youngest of 5. And by the time I was born, my parents were just tired. They had been like, super following all my older siblings. And by the time it got to me, they were just like, you go,
Do what you want, so we don't care.
So that was really, really interesting to me. Something else that stood out is I kind of wondered if the parents, like there would be a lot of parents who were entrepreneurs themselves. No, a couple, 2 or 3. But mostly no. I kind of wondered if the parents would mostly have been educated, college degrees. No, many were not. So there were all sorts of things and I wondered, would this entrepreneurial nature show up early? Were these people leaders in elementary school? Were they, the superstars of their high school? No. Many of them, I'm sure their high school classmates would be stunned. They were not leaders, in high school. They were just, working hard at something they loved. So there were all sorts of things actually that kind of surprised me as I got into it.
So it's like all over the map. There's not like a particular pattern. Like I don't have to be born the first child to become an entrepreneur, the second or the middle or the last. I could be in any position of the siblings, basically.
And by the way, you can't make your child an entrepreneur. You can't say, I have this good idea. You should become an entrepreneur. I'm going to send you to entrepreneur camp. That's not how it works. You can create the conditions for them to become entrepreneurial, for them to be curious, for them to be risk-taking. But you can't make them an entrepreneur. I mean, of all the people that I interviewed, only 5 of them have a sibling who's an entrepreneur. And in all 5 cases, they also have a sibling who's not an entrepreneur. Not everyone wants to work that hard. Not everyone wants to take on that much risk. A lot of people want more work-life balance and, more confidence in their income stream. And that's fine. But I do think if parents raise their children to be more entrepreneurial, whatever they do, they'll do a better job at it because they'll be willing to take on a project if it seems like it's worthwhile. They'll be willing to work hard to finish something that they think makes sense. They'll be willing to pivot when things don't work. They'll be willing to try things other people say will never succeed. And whether you're a librarian in your school or starting a company, these are all wonderful characteristics that will make you better at your job.
Oh yeah, that's true. Wow. Well, if you could, look back at all the stories that were shared also, are there like some regrets that some parents shared? Maybe some helicopter parents, for example. Are there like some particular things that they shared about, what they regretted doing?
Yes, no, I'm happy to share some stories. So as I say, a lot of the parents, when their children first developed these passions, the parents were not enthusiastic. But eventually when the parents realized how much joy their children got, then they became supportive. So one of my favorite examples of that is John Chu, the movie director who did Wicked and Crazy Rich Asians. And his parents were immigrants. They still have a wonderful Chinese restaurant in Palo Alto called Chef Chu's, and he was one of 5, I think the youngest. And his parents just wanted all the kids to be, successful professionals. And from like 4th grade on, he was in love with making movies and was always filming things and had a little filming company in high school and was like filming weddings and bar mitzvahs and parties. And because his parents had this restaurant in Silicon Valley, and people knew that when they were working on a beta computer, they would give it to him. So he had lots of, cool hardware and software, but he was always working on it in his free time. And his mom, as long as he was doing his schoolwork, it was okay with her. But anyhow, so he was in high school and he was supposed to be asleep, and she came into his room and he was working on a video on his laptop. And she said, put that nonsense away and go to sleep. You need to be rested for school tomorrow and stop spending so much time on this. And he burst into tears and he said, you can't make me stop. This is what I want to do with my life. This is what I love more than anything. And she said, go to sleep. We'll talk tomorrow. And she picked him up at school the next day, and she had been to the library and she had gotten 10 filmmaking books. And she said, if you want to do it, be the best.
That's so nice.
And he said after that, like, his parents were the most supportive parents, and he went to USC Film School. And when he was graduating, they all have little films they do. And he was showing it. And his mom said, well, what are you serving? And he said, serving. And she said, yeah. So his whole family drove down from Palo Alto with like champagne and food and snacks to serve to the guests. He said they were always like the most supportive parents after that. They always had a sign on their restaurant that if you showed up with a movie stub, a ticket stub from one of his movies, you'd get $1 off on a drink.
Wow, that's so supportive. Yeah. when your parents are like your biggest fans, then yeah, you feel loved and you feel like, yeah, you could do anything basically. Yes. You have that rock to fall back on.
But it's hard sometimes for parents, you just think like you have to do a normal academic path. And it turned out, and he went to Hollywood with no connections. And, he's incredibly talented. He's the world's nicest guy. I'm so happy for him that he's doing so well. And, it paid off,
Yeah. It's fulfilling his purpose in life, basically. Yeah. But what word would you share with, like I'm an immigrant originally from Nigeria, and I can imagine, raising up children and they want to take like non-traditional paths, maybe not become engineers or doctors like my parents and grandparents have, installed into my head. Like I might be feeling some kind of fear, fear of instability, fear of uncertainty for my child. How would you advise me basically, to overcome this fear of instability for my own child, or insecurity that my child might not turn up to be something in the society if he or she goes ahead to explore his or her passion in life?
I mean, there's no guarantees, but I would say that having your child do something that gives them joy is a pretty good goal. And, I talk to some of these parents and they're just, I don't know if they can make money doing that, painting or singing or sewing or cooking or whatever it is they wanted, running podcasts, whatever it is they want to do. And they say, I want them to get a normal job so that they can, have the money to succeed and, raise a family. And I said, let me get this straight. Your goal for your child is that they should spend 40 years doing something they don't like.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great.
Like, that's your goal for your child, that they should spend 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, 40 years in a job that makes them unhappy? Like, maybe it's better to be in a situation that's financially risky, but at least you come home every day full of joy. And, successful entrepreneurs, very few people start out with one idea and do that just consistently, just straight through, and it just works forever, right? You pivot. You adapt, you adjust, you change, maybe you start out thinking you're going to be a singer, and then it's really hard, but then you realize you're so good at helping other singers. And so you work with singers and become like a coach and a mentor of singers. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you've found the thing that gives you joy, you can adapt and grow with it.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you too. I was just hearing a parent's voice in my head right now that says, I also went to study law, for example, not because I wanted to study law, but because I was forced to, and that's why I'm able to afford this life that you have right now. Why don't you do the same thing too? Just do the same thing too, so you can afford a good life for yourself. But it's not the right way to go. I mean, that's like the old way. But right now, one should, support the child's dream and passion so that the child
Yes.
can live a fulfilled life, not just push through life like the parent also pushed through life without having purpose.
Right.
I mean, I got to learn that, your guiding principles, are, kindness, gratitude, creativity, and unconditional love. And from our conversation so far, I've been learning that already, from your answers. Like, I would like to learn how this has shaped your own parenting and how it has evolved over time, like your guiding principles of how you raise your own children and people around you.
So, I mean, I didn't know any of this stuff when I had children. And I think we were always like a very supportive family all the way through high school. People would say, "What time do we eat dinner?" And I'd say, "When the last person walks in the door." We ate dinner together every night. We traveled extensively as a family together on a regular basis. And, we all supported each other and we're proud of everything the kids did. Like you said, I'm a big fan of honesty and integrity. I used to tell them, if you're only dishonest 1% of the time, then I can't trust you 100% of the time. So my kids are both like incredibly honest, incredibly honorable, incredibly kind, incredibly gentle, incredibly thoughtful. I'm just very lucky. But the amazing thing for me is that, and we didn't plan it, we didn't know anything about it, but both of our kids ended up with a passion outside of school, and they were seriously involved in that passion. My older son, it was tennis from like the age of 12, and it was 5 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Wow.
Like it was intense. And he had done every sport when he was young. And then he really fell in love with tennis at about age 12. And I mean, if you know anything about tennis, most of the people who end up, really good, by the time they're 12, they're already playing regional tournaments. And we don't play tennis. He just was in love with it. And he lost every match for years. And he'd say, "I know what I did wrong. I'll beat him next time." And he fought his way up to 35 in the country.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Amazing.
That's amazing.
And so our younger son also had a passion in an area we knew nothing about, and that was writing music. And he now has a wonderful band, Magic Giant. I hope everybody listens. And he and his wife have also started singing together in a very sort of indie duo called Somewhere in Between. But we'd signed him up for a summer of sports camps when he was 12, I think, and he broke his leg the first week. And I was looking for something for him to do, and everything, of course, at that point is booked. And I found something that was writing music on the computer. I said, "You're going to this." And at the end of the summer, that was it. And he wrote 300 songs before he graduated from high school.
300? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, when he was in college, I used to say I felt sorry for other mothers who didn't get a new song in their inbox every week. And the school let him conduct the entire band on like a 15-minute full orchestra composition he'd written. It's extraordinary. It's only when I was writing the book that I realized the amazing thing is that both our children ended up with passions in areas my husband and I knew nothing about. So we couldn't help them. And we're both very helpful people. So if they'd been interested in anything we knew anything about, we would have been all over them with advice. But because we didn't know anything about tennis or music, they had to figure everything out for themselves. And that turned out to be a really good thing.
Yeah.
So, I tell parents, you just do the best you can, and it's usually good enough.
That's true. I love that so much. You just do the best you can. You don't know how it will turn out. Yeah. And your best is just enough, as in from that moment. Yeah. And once we know better, we do better. Like, listen to you right now, then I'm also, it's reshaping my mindset on how to raise kids also, and not force things down their throats because I was taught that way, but allow them to live life, explore life, discover who they are for themselves. Yeah. I mean, your book is about raising entrepreneurs, but it's not just that. It's also about, a guide of raising all people, like, not just like being successful in one part, but being whole. What does it mean to you to raise a child with both ambition and soul? Because this is Mirror Talk Soul Conversations. We have to talk a little bit about the soul.
No, absolutely. I mean, you want someone who's kind and who's loving and who's generous of spirit. I mean, it's the most important thing. And as you say, it's not just about raising entrepreneurs. It's about raising people with a certain mindset. So if I can read my favorite paragraph in the book.
Yes, please.
I say, if encouraging children to become more entrepreneurial by promoting certain attitudes can only be a good thing. All children thrive if they learn to believe in themselves, if they learn to pursue their true passions, if they learn to find new ways to solve old problems, to see opportunity where others see the status quo, to be willing to take on a challenge without proper credentials, to work with single-minded determination to achieve a goal, to take on risk if a project is worth trying, to learn that building something wonderful is its own reward, regardless of how much money you're going to make, to view failure as feedback and setbacks as learning experiences, and to dream big dreams.
To dream big dreams. I love that so much. Yeah. Walking towards your goal, like single-heartedly, like not being distracted. Yeah. Yes. Wow. I mean, if you could whisper just one message to every parent out there right now, one truth to, hold on to through the noise and pressure, what would that be? Because I believe a lot of parents, experience this pressure from societal pressure, basically. Look at family age children, they're doing wonderfully well in science and whatnot. You have to do the same thing too. What would you whisper to us so that we can pull through the noise and the pressure that we feel from our neighbors?
So I believe that every child is born who they are. I believe they come out with a personality, with strengths and weaknesses and likes and dislikes. And our job as parents is to help figure out who they are and then to support them in becoming that person. I think it's so important for parents to observe their children and see who their child really is and watch that and nourish that and support that. I have a grandchild now who's 6 years old. And when he was looking at kindergartens, I went with his parents, and one of the kindergartens had asked all the kids to write down who they wanted to be when they grew up. These are 5-year-olds, and they'd drawn like a picture, and it's, I want to be a farmer. I want to be a dancer. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a doctor. I want to fly airplanes. I want to whatever. They're all different. Like, you can't just push them all into the same program in the same kind of school and sort of stamp out that creativity. I was with my grandchild, and we were somewhere, and some dancers came on stage, and he looked for a couple minutes, and then he said, "I'm bored. I want to go." And I said to his parents, another child would look at this and say, "Oh my God, can I take lessons? I want to do this." And then they live in Florida, and some guy came over and like shimmied up a tree to cut down some coconuts. And he said, "Oh my gosh, I want to learn how to do that." Another kid would be like, "Oh God, they went up in a tree." I mean, kids are different.
Yeah.
Watch them, see what makes them, happy, see what gives them joy, and then encourage that, nurture that, support that.
Watch your kids, see what gives them joy. Yeah. And kids are different. Yeah, all different. Yeah. Thank you so much, Margot. I've learned so much from you. I mean, what's the best way to connect and work with you? I know your book is available on Amazon. There's information about it on your website also, but I would like you to talk to everyone out there who's listening so far. What's the best way to connect with you, to work with you, to get your book also?
Yeah. So, as Toby says, my book's on Amazon, Raising an Entrepreneur. Make sure you get the second edition, because that's the one that has all the photos. It's a collection of 2 to 4 page stories, and each one starts with a picture of them when they were young and a picture of them today, which is super fun.
Yes.
And it's on Amazon. I am on Instagram at Margot Bisnow, and I've gotten on LinkedIn, and I have a website, raisinganentrepreneur.com, and you can contact me through the website. So I hope to hear from any of you that have comments.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to place the link to your website in the show note of this episode. So I encourage everyone to click on it, copy the link. The information to all your social media handles are also available on your website. So anyone who wants to follow you on LinkedIn or Instagram, could do the same also. And also your child's band, Magic Giant. I'll place the link also in the show notes of this episode. So anyone who wants to listen to some music could also do the same thing. I really appreciate speaking with you. I've learned so much about parenting from you, letting go of the helicopter parents traits and allowing your child to just blossom, to grow and find his or her passion. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much. It was great fun.
If this conversation resonated with you, consider following or subscribing to Mirror Talk on your favorite podcast platform. You can also support the show by sharing this episode with someone who might need it and by leaving a 5-star rating. It helps these conversations reach more people who could benefit from them.
Thank you very much.